Good evening and welcome. Tonight we'll be going over the brief history and geography of Bulgaria. Bulgaria is located in Eastern Europe in an area known as the Balkans. It's bordered by Romania up here. It has a border here with Serbia, a border here with North Macedonia, a southern border with Greece, and this border with Turkey. It also has a coastline on the Black Sea. And this region is really nice for beach resorts and things like that, especially in the cities of Burgas and Varna. But in terms of water, probably the most important geographic feature of Bulgaria in that sense is the Danube River, which makes up this whole northern border with Romania up to there. And this whole area here is the lowlands of the Danube River, the flatlands and waterways coming off and into the Danube in this region up here. But for the most part, Bulgaria is pretty mountainous, as you can see. It's very dominated by the Balkan Mountains, slicing right through here. In the south, we have the Rhodope Mountains up here. And then there's a little chain right here known as the Rila Mountains, where you can find the highest point of Musala right here. These mountains are full of caves and waterfalls and underground streams, things like that. Very forested, very rocky. And then in the lowlands here, in the Danube Plain and down here, we have a zone down here known as the Valley of the Thracian Kings, which sounds very poetic. We'll talk about it a bit in its history. There's also a little valley right in here, just south of the Balkan Mountains, that's known as the Valley of the Roses. And Bulgaria grows lots and lots and lots of roses that they're very proud of, and roses mainly used to make perfumes out of. Something they're super proud of. Just want to point that out. The capital city is located right here, Sofia, just like at the end of the valley here between the mountains. And as you can see, there's lots of other rivers crisscrossing and coming down from the mountains, things like that. But yeah, for the most part, that's what you need to know about Bulgarian geography. Lots of major cities as well, some going back to very ancient times. And, why don't we just get into the ancient times? Let's just dive right in. And I don't have a book for you tonight. I do have this one just for some set decoration for you, but we'll flip through this tomorrow because it doesn't have a lot of pictures, so I will bring out my tablet after we do history and we'll look around Bulgaria on Google Earth. So, historically, the earliest forms of human settlement in Europe were found in what is now Bulgaria. It's believed that humans migrated into this area around the 5th millennium BCE, and this is also where gold metallurgy was invented, where people figured out how to turn gold into things like jewelry and decorations. And there's lots of ancient gold in like bracelets and charms, headdresses, things like that found in this region. But by far the most important ancient civilization in what's now Bulgaria were the Thracians, living in Thrace. And not too much is known about the Thracians. I always considered the Thracians to be part of like ancient Greece, in that, they weren't Greek, but they were sort of part of that culture. They interacted with a lot of the other ancient Greek city-states, but the Thracians were like the backwater, the weird ones, like, you would hang out with them, but you wouldn't invite them to Thanksgiving, things like that. They were the strange ones, kind of almost like the more barbaric, the less civilized of like ancient Greek classical life, in a sense. That civilization was conquered by the Achaemenids, which was the Persian Empire, in the 6th century BCE. And a lot of the Thracian tribes wound up uniting in 479 BCE to kick out the Persians and create the Odrysian kingdom, which was the Thracian kingdom that ruled over the area, until they were conquered by Philip II of Macedon in 341 BCE. It became part of the Macedonian Empire, most famous for Philip's son Alexander. But after Alexander went and did his thing, the Macedonian Empire fell into pieces, literally. This region was raided by the Celts before the Romans came in and took it over and made it part of the Roman Empire. And it's during this period that Christianity was brought into the region. It's still very important today. You can see a really cool monastery up here. Probably see that on Google Earth too. It's a big part of the culture. But the Byzantines wound up controlling this area. I mean, Turkey's just down here, so Byzantium was pretty close by. So when the Roman Empire broke up, it fell under the Eastern or Byzantine part of the empire. And also during this time, Slavic people came into the area, and the Bulgar people invaded the area. And it's like this mishmash of cultures that creates what's today identified as the Bulgarian heritage, ethnicity, so to say. They started their own kingdom in the year 681, and like I said, there was Christianity in the region, but it was the Byzantine form, which was Orthodox Christianity, and these people were like all about it, which was very different from what the western side of Europe and what was the Roman Empire then was practicing, which was Catholicism. They were very into their Orthodox religion. The Cyrillic alphabet was invented in what is now Bulgaria, so they used that for writing. They spoke a Slavic language as well. And during this time was a reign of Simeon the Great, which was like the golden age of the Bulgar empires. After he passed away, the Byzantines came back and retook the area. A uprising in 1185 kicked them out, and the Second Bulgarian Empire came into being, and they really expanded out in this region, really dominated, mainly like over here in Europe. But the Mongols actually invaded, started taking over land, which really squashed that. And then there were uprisings against the Mongols as well. But then in the 1340s, the Ottomans came in and took over, and the Ottomans really stayed for quite a long time in this region of the world. And there were, of course, many uprisings. A lot of the uprisings in like the 1600s, 1700s were supported by the Austrians or the Habsburg Empire, who were very much against the Ottomans. In the 18th century, the Enlightenment was popping up in Europe, and it came into this area and inspired a Bulgarian national awakening, and people remembering their heritage. And that led to the 1876 uprising, which the Ottomans squashed big time in a really horrific way, in a way that actually Russia declared war on the Ottoman Empire, and they fought during that time. Most notably, the Battle of Shipka Pass was like the big monumental battle of that war. It's still a very like important moment in Bulgarian history, was that battle. But in 1878, Bulgarians went out and they formed a new Bulgarian state. And the Serbians wound up winning their freedom from the Ottomans around-ish that time, and the Balkans was just trying to find their own while the Ottomans were weakening, and a lot of wars sprung up during this time. There were two big ones that Bulgaria fought. I'm not going to get too much into the Baltic Wars, they're a little convoluted, but eventually World War I happens, and that weakens Bulgaria even more, which led to a dictatorship. They were ruled by a king, they had their own kingdom, but it turned very dictatorial pretty quick. And the king during World War II was Boris III, and he was really good buddies with the Chancellor of Germany, let's say, so they supported the Axis powers during that war. But when he died in, I believe, 1943, the people really turned against their former allies and were supporting their former allies. I just say that in World War II. They turned against the Axis powers and was aligning with the Allies. I mean, you got to be careful with your phrasing during World War II. I never thought of that before, but anyway. Russia saw this as a good opportunity to invade in 1944 and, assert their power. People weren't really happy about that. Of course, there were uprisings. Seems to be a pattern in Bulgarian history, of course. But after the war, Bulgaria didn't become part of the USSR, didn't get absorbed into Russia, but it was definitely in that Soviet sphere of influence known as the Soviet bloc. It was a very Stalinist government, eventually became a one-party state, which was a communist party. But in 1989, there were some uprisings. It was more like a revolution, right, during that time period. And it led to the creation of more political parties. It wasn't like a total upheaval of the government like it was in some countries. It was more like the government just decided to become one party to multi-party democracy. So there were elections after that, and it's been a pretty democratic country ever since. It's been a democratic country ever since. Bulgaria joined NATO in 2004, and it joined the EU in 2007. And in a nutshell, that's about the basic history of Bulgaria. That's where we are today. Sorry if that was a little bit chaotic. But I want to show you some awesome pictures on Google Earth, so let me grab my tablet and we'll check it out. Okay, so here we are in Bulgaria. Let me zoom out a little so you can get a good sense of where Bulgaria is in the world. Right here in Europe. So let's check out some pictures to start. You can see the big famous church there, beautiful countryside, along the water there. There's the real monastery, some more modern buildings in Sofia, I'm sure, along the coast. In the winter time, you could go skiing, sledding, all kinds of fun things. And then in the summer, you go to the beach. There's old monuments, very old ones, lots of history, very old ones as well. Lots of very ancient history all around Bulgaria. And there's more of the famous buildings. There we go. So let's check out, let's see, what should we look at? Let's check out Sofia, the capital city, just to kind of see a aerial perspective. You can see that it's a very big city right here. And it's a pretty typical Eastern European city. Lots of big buildings, lots of, roads going through, things like that. It's very modern in some parts. I hesitate to look through the pictures again, but because I know a lot of the ones we just looked at were in Sofia, but there are some new ones in here. Oh, that's really quaint. Yes, oh, looks like a Japanese garden, doesn't it? Some old tanks. Looks like museums and important buildings inside the church. Yeah, very, sweet lion. Very European city, right? So let's check out, what else should we look at? Probably the coast over here. Okay, there we go. Make sure we're not going too far south. Let's check out, let me see if there's any recommendations down here for any other places. Let's go back to Bulgaria. And Let's see, sunny beach. There we go. That's what I was looking for. A recommendation for a beach. This looks like we're between like the main cities, Varna and Burgas. But this is a really beautiful beach, isn't it? Let's look at some pictures of it. Oh, I hate those rides. I would never. Very, very beautiful coastline there on the Black Sea. Beaches, wetlands, lots of life, birds, sandy beaches and waves, paragliding and wait. Oh, that was a nude beach. Oh my gosh. Wait. Oh my gosh. Let's zoom out of that. Nude beaches and beautiful water. Yeah, that was a fun time. Whoops. Thankfully Google Earth censors that kind of thing. But like here's Burgas. You can see some of the lakes in the Burgas Lakes region. Around there. You can see Varna up here, the other big coastal city. And let's check out more of the inland. Let's see the valleys over here. Let's see. Zoom out though. I don't want to end up in Romania. There we go. Let's check out some. Wait, I think Bulgaria. Oh, you know what? I have to go like this. There we go. And let me go a little more 2D. There we go. So used to seeing Bulgarian map form. I'm like, wait, I'm lost if it's in 3D. I wanted to check out the valley over here. The Valley of the Roses. See what we can see. Looks like there's a little dammed reservoir there from the looks of it. And what else do we have? I want to see all the farmland. Isn't that neat? Do you think we can street view a farm? I think right here. Let's see what we've got. I think I've been to this dot already, so it might load pretty quickly, which is nice. Yep, I've been to this one. Isn't that beautiful? Gorgeous, gorgeous countryside. Oh, someone brought their motorcycle out to take pictures. Very beautiful, right? What else can we see? Oh, there's a tomb right there. So yeah, there are Thracian tombs all over the place in Bulgaria. They look like this. They're all mounds. You have to go underground. Obviously, it's a tomb, right? But lots have been preserved pretty well. Ooh, isn't that fun? Very mysterious, right? Love it. Let's go to one more place. What should we see? Let's see some pictures of the national park. Just to close us out for the night. Big, beautiful mountains, right? Ooh, neat. Hopefully there's no nudity in this one. Isn't that gorgeous? Big, beautiful waterfall. Big lookout point, probably. The valleys, the rocks. Very pretty. Oh, big tower there. Little forest stream. Oh, look at those views. Oh, so pretty. So scenic, right? There's a map of the park. The sign. Oh my gosh, how gorgeous. Oh, that's it. Okay. But I feel like that gives you a good overview of Bulgaria, right? We saw the beach. We saw some tombs. We looked at Sofia. And we even saw somebody's butt. So I feel like that's going to be it for tonight. So thank you so much for watching. I do hope that you found this video relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a very good